Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video on the SciLE Stats YouTube channel. Now, before we get into my regular content, before I get into explaining my new top 10, I want to introduce something new that I'm doing. This I'm calling the Random Team Shoutout. Now, ever since I started this YouTube channel, I've pretty much been talking about like the top or the same 30-ish teams over and over and over again. Many of which are displayed here. And I never really get a chance to mention other random teams, smaller teams that typically don't do very well at invitationals, but compete with just as much passion as a lot of these very competitive teams. Their schools often just don't have the resources to be very competitive. And I've always felt kind of bad for these teams because I never have a chance to talk about them because my whole thing is ranking teams. And when you're ranking teams, inevitably some teams have to fall near the bottom. So today I'm going to be trying to change that. So for this video and every video in the future, I'm going to be shouting out one random team. What I'm going to do is I'll pick a random invitational, relatively recent invitational, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, past 2 or 3 weeks, and I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom. And usually at the bottom of any invitational will be a team or a couple teams that, do very poorly in most events, but then they medal in 1 or 2. And for this video, my random shout out is the Rainey School from New Jersey for getting 6th place in bungee drop at Princeton Invitational. Congratulations to the Rainey School. Now, on with our regular scheduled programming, so to speak. Let's get into this list. So let's start at the bottom here with Stuyvesant. Now, as I was preparing this list, I actually had Chattahoochee in the bottom spot here. Or 20th spot, not necessarily the bottom spot in the nation, but 20th here, and not Stuyvesant. So I was going to move Stuyvesant out, and I was ready to begin the video like that, but all of a sudden, I realized I was adding some new tournaments recently, and Stuyvesant actually did really well here at Yale, but then also here at Brown. So actually, Yale, this was very likely Stuyvesant's B team. They sent their A team here and looks like went unstacked, maybe, potentially, yeah. And then they ended up doing really, really well here. I mean, this, like, Acton, Boxborough, 71. First of all, we'll talk about this in a second, Acton, Boxborough, and Lexington being so close here. But first of all, Stuyvesant getting within 7 points of beating Lexington and 8 points of beating Acton Boxborough. And Acton Boxborough is like one of the highest ranked teams in the nation right now, at least, according to me, or from my point of view, I should say. So Stuyvesant being able to really compete with them and get within I would consider this a decently insignificant gap almost. 8 points, not a lot there. And in fact, I probably should move Stuyvesant up like a lot. Well, okay, you know what? I think the reason I did not was because while this performance is extremely good, their performance at MIT was not. You can see here, really just not a good performance there. Down here with Enloe and Cumberland Valley and Chattahoochee, all schools which I know can perform better than this, and indeed did perform better than this. We'll get to that in a second. Yeah, just not a good day for Stuyvesant there. And because of that, I'm keeping them further down on the list, although there is a very strong argument for them being more up here closer to Cumberland Valley. In fact, you know what? Let's just do that. Let's put Stuyvesant up here. I know I change my mind a lot. If you're new here, I apologize. But let's put Stuyvesant up here with Cumberland Valley and Enloe, because those are the teams that Stuyvesant was really close to at MIT here. Again, you can see in the mix with those teams. So I think putting them right next to those teams is a good call, and that means we should shade you. So next, let's move on to our new 20th place spot. Fulton Science Academy. So Fulton Science Academy, I believe the only reason they're in 20th place right now is because we didn't really get anything. I mean, I guess we did get this. This is something new from them. This kind of just confirms what we were thinking before. And by the way, something that I should note is that Chattahoochee moved ahead of Walton. I think, did I have that over here? Yes, here we go. Chattahoochee actually beat Walton and Fulton Science at Yellow Jacket. If I had to rank them, I would put them at 21st or 22nd, really close to Fulton Science. Yeah, they beat them pretty handily here. But I think throughout the season so far, Fulton Science has proven that they have outperformed Chattahoochee in numerous tournaments. And if you'll remember, for a while I had Walton as the runner-up in Georgia. With this strong performance here at Yellow Jacket, Chattahoochee takes that spot. But I'm going to keep them right behind Fulton Science for now because, like I said, Fulton Science has just been a little more consistent this season. If Chattahoochee has some other really strong performances, I can easily see them making it into the top 20 here. Next, Thomas Jefferson. I won't spend too long on this. We just have not gotten anything else out of them. I would really, really, really love to see another tournament like Cornell where they're competing against competitive teams here. Here they competed against Syosset, Montgomery, Stuyvesant, Ward Melville, Lower Marion, and they did really, really well. They got second when you super score them. But we just haven't seen anything else of that caliber from Thomas Jefferson yet. We have this, University of Virginia, but I mean, their competition, they went unstacked here, and they managed to beat everyone pretty badly too. I guess Lake Braddock got pretty close to beating their third team here, but regardless, I mean, total domination there. But again, not really competitive teams. So until we see more out of them, they'll just keep drifting down the list until eventually they fall off it. Anyway, moving on to Stevenson. Now, Stevenson was conspicuously absent from MIT, unfortunately, but we did get something new from them at Solon, and that new performance was not really that good. Yeah, definitely not the Stevenson we knew from 2 years ago, the national champions. Yeah, I mean, being beaten by, again, a lot of really competitive teams here. They did beat, a couple competitive teams, Carmel, Novi, Pioneer, and Marquette. This was almost certainly their B team, by the way. Yeah, I mean, beating these teams is a decent accomplishment. But I mean, if you're Stevenson and you want to, be within the top 10 or top 15 here, you really need to be beating the Madison Wests and New Triers and Cumberland Valleys. You need to be beating those teams. And unfortunately, we just didn't see that from Stevenson here. So they've drifted down the list 3 spots. We already talked about Stuyvesant, so I'm not going to talk about them again. Next, Cumberland Valley. I will try to make this as quick as possible, but it's going to be really hard because Cumberland Valley is weird, man. And that's from a Cumberland Valley alum. So let's start at MIT here, right? MIT just not good for Cumberland Valley. And in fact, if we go to MIT last year, also not good for Cumberland Valley. In fact, I think that is the same exact rank. Yes, that's the same exact ranking that they had last year, and almost the same exact team score as well, 591 to 582. So yeah, just not good performances at MIT. But then if we look at the rest of their record, I showed you guys Soaps. They beat Lower Marion, which was really the only other competitive team here, unfortunately. But more recently, look at Solon. They're up here in third once you factor in Solon, and at the actual tournaments, they got second because Solon, of course, doesn't give themselves trophies at their own tournament. And if you remember correctly, that's what happened last year, too. Cumberland Valley got second at Solon after really just not doing very well at MIT. I really have no idea how they keep doing this. They don't do very well at MIT against a lot of competitive teams, but then when they're against a few less competitive teams, still very competitive though, they end up doing really well. And this happened at Soup last year as well. Cumberland Valley just did so well at Soup last year, even though they just didn't do that good at MIT. So I really have no idea what to do with Cumberland Valley. I know last year, once when they bombed MIT, I took them out of the top 20. I think I was at like top 15 at that point. And then right, like the second they did well at Solon, I put them back like exactly where they were. And then I based my national predictions off of Cumberland Valley's performances at Soup and Solon rather than MIT. And then they ended up performing more similar to how they did at MIT. Not quite as poorly, but more similar. So really MIT seems to be at least for the limited data we have, which was last year, MIT seemed to be the best predictor for Cumberland Valley's performance at nationals. So I'm really going to be harsh on my former team here, and say that they really are going to need to like claw their way out of the out of places like 20th through 16th here to get back to where they were, which I think was that like 12th. No, no, yeah, it was like 13th originally. Yeah, 13th. So they're really going to need to claw their way out of the position they're in. But I mean, they can do it. They did it last year, so don't count them out yet. Is all I'm saying. But for now, we'll keep them here again, just because of their poor performance at MIT. Next, I know that was way longer. Is there anything else I wanted to say? Yeah, I don't get it. When I first saw the Solon results, I was losing my mind, man. That's why this video is probably titled something like "Results That Made Me Lose My Mind." Anyway, moving on to Enloe. So, I forget if we have anything new. No, we don't. I don't know why I moved them up then. Yeah, I don't know. I think just by proxy, like CV did better at Solon, and because Enloe beat CV pretty badly at MIT, I decided to move them up just to keep them ahead of CV. But yeah, so nothing new from them. We'll move on. New Trier. So New Trier didn't change at all on my rankings, but we do have some new data for them, namely Solon here. So Cumberland Valley beat New Trier by 3 points. Again, far from a significant gap there. But when you super score New Trier, they do in fact beat Cumberland Valley. So I've kept New Trier ahead of Cumberland Valley, kept them exactly where they were. I think this is a respectable performance at Solon here. If they wanted to get any higher, beating Cumberland Valley unsuper scored would help. Maybe getting like below 200 would also help. I might have put them up in like 12th or 11th or something like that. Maybe even top 10 then. I don't know. But yeah, New Trier, we're keeping there. Sasset, similar story, although we don't have anything new from Sasset. Their most recent performance was MIT, which wasn't that great, honestly. So, keeping them in 13th. Jordan, again, similar story. Nothing new since MIT. So we're keeping them exactly where they were. Iani, I'm not even going to bother. I guess I will, just to be fair. But yeah, Iani, the most recent thing we've had from them is MIT, which was really, really good for them. But nothing new recently, so they're staying where they are. Madison West. I believe we do have some new data for Madison West. Yes, we do. Did I talk about this in the video already? I'll talk about it quickly just in case. So, Madison West, you can see here normally they get 6, which is, fairly decent at Solon, kind of similar to Stevenson's performance, but not really beating these top teams. But then when you super score them, they do fantastically. They actually beat Solon super scored, which is insane. So I really considered moving them up, but I think I need some more, it's so tough because, again, at MIT, 10th at MIT is far from bad, but like Seven Lakes, which I have just behind them here, beat them. So it's really tough. I don't know. Maybe I should move both these teams up. Who knows? Let's just keep them here for now. Seven Lakes, again, similar story. Most recent thing we have from them is MIT. So no changes there. Marquette. I mentioned Marquette briefly. They sent their B team to Solon, I think, and it performed how Marquette's B team, how you might expect Marquette's B team to perform. I don't know why it keeps taking me to the bottom here. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, I mean, it's Marquette's B team, so not judging the whole team based on that. We're keeping them where they are. Montgomery, similar story here. I don't believe we do actually have Princeton here, which they do very, very well at. Of course, they beat Lower Merion, they beat Westminster South, they beat Lexington as well, and Centennial. By the way, if this is Lexington's A team, let me just go to Princeton real quick to make sure I'm not missing any super scores here for Lexington. But if that was Lexington's A team, then Centennial could actually be really good. Yeah. Not entirely sure it was. They might have been missing some people or whatever. But yeah, I mean, beating Lexington, which again came within 1 point of beating Acton-Boxborough, who I have ranked in third right now. Centennial might be really good this year. I'd like to see a little bit more direct evidence. I mean, I don't know. This is pretty direct. I don't even have them in keep an eye on category. All right, we're going to definitely put them there at least. There's a pretty strong argument, though, for them being like 19th or 18th. All right, we'll keep it there. I want some more evidence first. Next, Heritton. Again, Heritton, nothing new since MIT. They did really, really well at MIT, so they still have a very strong rank. Now, let's finally move on to some more teams that have changed their rankings. Solon. So, Solon was not at MIT, unfortunately, one of the few competitive teams to skip MIT. However, they were, of course, at their own tournament, and like I said, while they didn't give themselves trophies, they did compete in exhibition, and they, took the same test so they can be ranked against everyone else. And when you do that, they do really well. I mean, they're Solon. What else did you expect? But then when you super score them, again, oh, right, I didn't super score Solon because their super score does not change when you do that. But I mean, just look at all these teams that will have a better super score than Solon's normal score. Getting beat by New Trier, Madison, West here. Really not a great position if you're Solon. Again, not terrible. You're still ranked in fifth. Nothing to laugh at there. But yeah, I mean, Solon not quite as good as we expect. Monte Vista, again, nothing new here, but a bunch of these teams move up by proxy because Solon moved down here. I guess I'll prove to you nothing really. Oh, we do have something new actually, but again, not very. I mean, again, these California teams, I feel a little bad for them because if they were in almost any other state, they'd be like state champion every year. But because they're in California, competing against Troy and Monte Vista and Mountain View, not very competitive nationally. And yeah, then there's MIT. So, they're Monte Vista. They're good. I don't need to tell you that. Acton-Boxborough. We have some new data for them, and I misspelled something apparently, or is there a hyphen somewhere? Oh, right, because I added Acton-Boxborough Regional. So hold on, let me fix this real quick. Here we go. This is what we're looking for. Let's replace that. There we go. All right, except this is still not including their MIT performance. I apologize as I work through my issues here. Okay, hold on. Let's fix this real quick before I forget. Regional. No, I just want this part. Okay, that's fine. There we go. And regional, and get rid of one of those. And we'll do the same thing for their second team. I apologize, guys. There we go. I might cut that out. All right. So, as I was saying, Acton-Boxborough. So, we do have some new data for Acton-Boxborough, and it's pretty good. They do move up, mostly because Solon moved down. But, yeah, actually, it might be entirely because Solon moved down. I kind of forget. But, yeah, here, Lexington came very, very close to beating Acton-Boxborough when you super score them. So it's a little scary for Acton, They've been state champion in Massachusetts. I don't know exactly how long, but at least for the past 2 years. And yeah, there is a potential for Lexington to upend that. But they're still very good. If Lexington somehow, not somehow, I mean, like I said, it's not out of the realm of possibility that Lexington could beat them. If Lexington does beat them at their state competition, I'll put Lexington in basically the same spot, maybe move them down a little bit to fifth or sixth, just because Lexington's a little less experienced on the national stage. But I digress. And finally, we're moving on to the last team that has changed rankings is Mason. So Mason, in the last video, I had behind Solon because consistently this season, up until Solon Invitational here, Solon has been able to beat Mason just barely. But Solon, of course, changed that. Not only did Mason beat Solon outright, if this was their stacked team, this was their unstacked team, which I kind of doubt. I find it more believable that Mason's B team is just really, really good. But if this was their unstacked team, then there is a very strong argument for Mason being the top team in the country. The not the only reason, but a strong reason why I didn't do that is because Troy literally just beat Mason at MIT, which is still fairly recent, not by a huge gap there, but they did still beat them. So maybe if we get another really strong performance from Mason where they absolutely annihilate Solon or something, I'll put them as the top team in the nation. But Mason has a strong shot at being the national champion this year. So, yes, one more thing about Mason. They at Solon, their teams were named based on the Super Bowl teams. So their Eagles team and then their Chiefs team, which I found that funny. I also found it funny that they predicted the Super Bowl winner. Their Eagles team beats their Chiefs team. And of course, in the Super Bowl, the Eagles beat the Chiefs. So I just thought that was kind of funny. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. So something I didn't mention in the last video was that at MIT, I know I'm jumping back and forth a lot here, but at MIT, Seven Lakes, they do, I mean, this is still really good, right? 7th place. But then when you super score them, they get 3rd. Where did that come from? I don't think they were unstacked, but I mean, that's some decently strong evidence that they were, I guess. Their B team's all the way down here. I'm not quite sure what to make of that. That's a little strange. I've never really seen anything like that. I already talked about CV being weird. I already talked about Chattahoochee, and I just talked about Massachusetts being really competitive. So I believe that will do it for this video. Also, if you're curious, I've started making state rankings. I know it's a little random which states I have on here. I have Kansas and Michigan next to Texas and PA. But I just felt like putting this down. Kansas, by the way, I feel like Blue Valley West has been slightly outperforming Blue Valley North, which was the state champion last year. So they are slightly favorited in my opinion. But I might make a whole video based on state or about state rankings. I don't know. We'll see. But I think that'll do it for this video. Thank you very much for watching and have a fantastic day.